I always feel better when there's a doctor in the house, and our doctor is Dr. Jaime Taweel, and he checks in via Zoom. Hey, Doc, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Feeling pretty good. So, let's just start off on the emotional side. I know you're more into the pure medical side, but I heard a story. I don't know if you've been experiencing this or any of your patients have. I saw a story today. It says we're all having these really weird dreams, and it's because I know you didn't expect me to ask this. This is not your area of expertise, so I'm just asking you, person to person, we're having these dreams because there isn't enough going on in our life for our brain to formulate dreams right now because we're at home doing the same thing every day. And so because of that, we're having really odd dreams. And, that's happened to me. Have you been having any strange dreams at all, Doc?
Have I? No, but I can imagine how that would be definitely happening. That the volume of information that we receive as people, just from internet, TV, and all the things just going out about our daily lives, and that suddenly gets narrowed down, I think our subconscious starts to pick up a little bit. So absolutely, I can see that happening.
So the biggest news in the medical front here in the Detroit area today is actually in the financial side. Beaumont comes out with news that they're going to be laying off thousands of doctors, and I don't think most of us have thought about how this is all working financially. We just go to get treated. Beaumont, they just came right out and said they're in big trouble. They lost millions of dollars first quarter. Do you think this is rampant across the entire medical industry, that we're going to continue to see other institutions that are having some financial challenges?
Certainly. I can tell you, just as a primary care physician that's dealing with, a lot of patients, a lot of them are reluctant to go to the hospital, very much so, because they're afraid that they're going to go there and get coronavirus rather than get treated for it. So I can't tell you how many times patients are calling me up or talking to me and saying, listen, I don't want to go anywhere near that hospital. I can see that volume's going down. I know other hospital systems have laid and furloughed off a significant number of employees. I think I even read in that same article, the CEO took a pretty significant pay cut, which is usually a big deal in these types of scenarios. So it's devastating. Everybody.
Do you see, and I didn't think about it, we talked to an orthopedic doctor earlier this week who said they've not been able to do some of the procedures, the knees, the shoulders, the other pains here and there, and the surgical procedures. Do you think as we start to open things back up that we might see some of those routine elective, I don't know if they're routine, some of those elective surgical procedures come back? Or do you think that it's needed? People have been waiting a long time for some of these elective procedures.
Yeah, and those are also moneymakers for hospitals, these elective procedures. Surgeries and procedures are how a lot of hospital systems do make money. So they're going to try and ramp that up back as soon as possible, I would imagine, my opinion anyways. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people that have been putting off procedures that otherwise could have been done sooner had this not been an event. But yeah, I have a feeling that's going to start up in hopefully sooner than later, but obviously they're going to do every precaution possible to make sure that it's not too soon and that we're not going to create more problems. But people are waiting, and even one of my closest friends, his wife was due for a C-section. They considered that an elective surgery and actually had to push that a little bit out. So, these things can get pretty.
So that surprises me. I mean, they can only push that so far, right?
And they did. Well, I mean, they didn't. They pushed it a little bit further than she would have been comfortable with. It was about a week out past her due date, but they obviously it was not an elective surgery,
sure,
but a required one, but more along that kind of blurred line there.
Dr. Taweel is joining us, Dr. Jaime Taweel, internist right here in Oakland County. We thank him so much for being our local medical expert here on the show. So the governor has 10 days, and she's got a tough decision in front of her. It won't be all hers. Michigan legislature will weigh in as well, and they're going to try to come up with some kind of a solution. We heard from the business community via the Small Business Association of Michigan earlier today. Governor's been pretty clear. She seems to want to err, if she does, one way or the other on the side of protecting people's health. I'd be interested to hear your perspective, from a physician perspective, as we get ready to open things up here in Michigan. Our numbers, they plateaued a little bit, but Michigan's still one of the worst areas in the country, one of the most prolific coronavirus, COVID-19 areas of the country. Where do you weigh in on this whole debate, and any thoughts on how we should begin to get back to normal?
So it's a tough decision to make. And I think that the big issue that we're also dealing with is that we're still limited on tests. I think we have a piece of the data, not all of it. And the testing has also been limited to, people like earlier, stating that the tests were limited to people that are highly symptomatic rather than people that just had exposure. So I don't think we have all of the data quite yet to make quite a decision. It is plateauing a bit, but again, we're also limiting tests, and it's not plateauing as rapidly as I think we would like it to be. Excuse me. But I do think that it's going to be a very cautious rollout. I certainly think we should be cautious in this rollout. And believe it or not, I want businesses to open more than anybody else. But at the same time, I'm not going to do it. I would not recommend doing it at the expense of human lives. So I think we need to see things just mellow out a little bit more before we get what I would consider to be an expected bump once we reopen things.
So, Dr. Taweel, at some point, they are going to open businesses back up. So what kind of things should we as business owners be thinking about? What kind of things can we do to protect our employees as they start to come back to work? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. I think continuing the social distancing, I think that's going to be the norm from this point on. I think businesses will open up, and I think there's going to be a very cautious period of time. I think people are going to continue to wear masks. I would hope people continue to wear masks. I would hope people continue to, use hand sanitizers, practice social distancing, wash their hands, doing the Gupta hand wash that you mentioned that you do. And I think it's going to be a cautious, slow rollout before people feel very comfortable with this. And I think, the hysteria that I was initially seeing among a lot of people, I think is starting to calm down a little bit, and cooler heads are starting to prevail, thankfully. And I think people are now starting to just be reasonable. So, at one point they started at one end of the spectrum where they were locked in. Now they're starting to be a little bit more social, but at the same time, very precautious. So I think we're at a pretty reasonable spot. And I think that it's just going to be for business owners to protect their employees, they're going to have to just continue to reinforce all of these things, and bear in mind that risks are certainly, I think the other one thought that just crept into my head was that, business owners have to be vigilant if an employee has symptoms to under no circumstances allow them to continue to work. They should go home and continue those self-quarantine restrictions.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it, Dr. Taweel. As I get ready at my business to have employees come back, we have had nobody here in our radio studio, just the three of us, and we've all been very careful and a daily briefing and keeping everything clean, and we're wearing our masks. We don't do it when we're in the broadcast studio, but when we're out of here, we do. But I'm just thinking, what's the toolkit that a business needs? Well, you're going to have a bunch of hand sanitizer. You better get stocked up on that. You might as well get stocked up on it now. It might take you a while to find it. I mean, I think businesses are going to business owner. We wash your hands. We know all that stuff. I think, hot, wash your soap, use your soap rather, sing the happy birthday song a couple of times. Maybe we should start getting an inventory of masks, too. Employees might not show up at work with them. It might be helpful to have some of those supplies, and businesses start thinking about that now because you may be open in a couple of weeks or a month or 2 months.
Absolutely. I think the biggest, in my opinion, the best resource that a business can have is education. Education for their employees, a set of standards and practices in place that they've come up with ahead of time so that there's no confusion. Here's how we're going to deal with these things, so employees know how to deal with things. I think, everybody's, I went to the park the other day and walked my dog, and, people are walking around looking like they're restaining furniture. They're wearing the gas masks and they got the gloves on. And you know what, though? It's what needs to happen. Yeah. And I'm glad they are. So they're at least able to enjoy the things, but they're taking appropriate precautions.
It used to be a lot of companies, probably a lot of bigger ones, have the company nurse. Maybe, in addition to the HR consultant that a lot of medium and small-sized businesses, maybe we need to have a doctor on staff. Maybe Dr. Taweel, when I get my staff together, maybe I'll just put you on Zoom and let you tell everybody what to do. And, that might be a whole nother business sector for doctors or other health, doesn't have to be physicians, but some health consultants to let people know what to do, because I'm sure there's a ton of confusion. People don't know what to do.
Yeah, I think there needs to be guidelines set in place. I think there should be something that's going to be put together. Hopefully, maybe we should contact the health department and determine whether or not they have a set of guidelines in place that they can set out to all the businesses to make sure that things are being appropriate. I have no doubt that something like that will come up,
I
but
bet.
I'm always available to answer questions if you guys want to.
Well, thank you. I wouldn't inconvenience you like that, but well, I might. We had
More than
We had Dr. Faust on the show yesterday from the Oakland County Health Department. I think you're right. I think they're going to probably put together that information so businesses can have some idea and just continue to update all of us as they've done so far with information. Dr. Taweel, anything else you want to add? Anything else in your mind today that people should be aware of?
No, just stay safe. I know it seems like I'm getting this general feeling from the public that it's things are just on the horizon, and I can appreciate that excitement and that sentiment, but at the same time, do not lose your heads quite yet. Let's just keep this momentum going for a little bit longer, get that curve just a little more flat, and make sure people are staying safe. And I advise them strongly to continue it. Any problems or questions or concerns, always contact your doctor. We're here to help.
All right, that's great advice, and I think when things do open up, we'll need to even step up the communication a little more, and I know you'll be here to give us a helping hand. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Taweel joining us here, Dr. Jaime Taweel, internal medicine specialist, and our good friend right here on the MegaCast.